June 19th at 7 p.m. Please rise for the invocation, which will be given tonight by our Councilwoman Monique Owens, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear God, we thank you for another day. Thank you, Lord, for the leadership that's before us today through the council and also the leaders within the community. Help us to be better leaders for our community, to be strong and be together as one. Lord, we thank you for your son Jesus for dying for us, in which he did not have to do. And we thank you, Lord, this great city. And please, Lord, continue to bring us forward as a community and as a family. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please call the roll.
Board Member DeMonico.
Here.
Board Member Lucido. Board Member Kleinfeld.
Here.
Board Member Owens.
Here.
Mayor Pixley.
Here. With that, we'll move for an approval of tonight's agenda. Do we have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with one change, adding under unfinished business, item B, letter of understanding regarding GFL contract.
Support that.
Please call the roll.
Board Member Kleinfeld.
Yes.
Board Member DeMonico.
Yes.
Board Member Owens.
Yes.
Mayor Pixley.
Yes. And with that, we move to the hearing of the public, but I'd just like to tell you that our Councilwoman Sarah Lucido is on a well-deserved vacation. So she sent photos last night from Niagara Falls. It was a little bit cooler there than it was here, but we're hoping that she all had a good time. So move to the hearing of the public. Does anyone wish to be heard at this time? Ma'am?
I have just a couple questions.
If you still have to come up and state your name, if you wouldn't mind. And we can't answer questions right away, but we can address them later in our comments.
Mary Pappenheim, 24815 Marine. What I did want to, two things I wanted to address. When there is excessive noise from a party, and I know our noise ordinance begins at 11 p.m., but if it's excessive before that time, in this instance, the police did have to come at 11. There was, to break this up, there was probably a crowd larger than 100. And is there any owner responsibility? The home is a renter home. If there's renters in the home, is the homeowner ever notified of what's going on, that the police have had to come?
I can address that later,
Okay.
or Mr. Cotton could also.
Okay. Secondly, we found a dog, this has been a couple months ago, on a weekend, a stray dog, and we took it to the police station, and they couldn't take it. What do you recommend when people find a dog that they do with it on the weekend?
And we will have that answered by the city manager or by our police.
Okay. And one more quick thing. On our street, on Marine, coming between 10 Mile and Haas, we do have a lot of speeding, and there's a lot of children playing there, and we just wonder if there was any way, you know, how they have the sign, caution children playing or whatever, if that could be addressed for that street.
All right.
Thank
We'll
you.
address all of those. Thank you for coming forward. Does anyone else wish to be heard tonight? Whoa, lots of people. How about right in front?
My name is Edna Kravchuk, and I live on Collinson. I was here in May, and Mr. Joseph Marucci wrote me a letter, and it's concerning the street between Shakespeare and Boulder that is so bad. And he just told me that there is no money to fix the street, that there's 8.6 miles of street. My street is a number 3 on the basis of a 1 being the worst, 3 being, 10 being the best. I did a drive around of every street, approximately 80% of the streets. here in Eastpointe. And my street is definitely the worst out of 90% of these streets. The second most one is on Ego and then on Stricker. Again, between Cushing and Shakespeare on Stricker. And I just can't believe that you don't have the money or you don't plan on having the money. That's what I want to know. When do you plan on having the money to fix these streets? This street has not been touched since it was put in 1954. And I got that from one of the original homeowners who bought their house in 1954. And I'd like to know.
I'm sure that our city manager can help to address that question.
And do I have to wait till the end of the thing, or is he going to send me a letter?
And
Please.
I know you were here last time and you left beforehand, so if
No,
you,
I did not leave beforehand. I didn't leave till at the end of the
okay,
thing was given up. And then Mr. Joe Marucci sent me a letter, and I spoke with him on the phone.
okay.
And then he sent me another letter after we spoke on the phone, telling me there's no funding. Well, if I don't pay my taxes, you guys take my money, and you take my house. I mean, I've been living here for 32 years, and you almost tore down my garage one time when I was absolutely no money in my home, my sick mother, and you came in and said, we're going to tear down your garage. And you didn't, because I saved my garage. But now, I just want to know, when do you plan on finding the money? And don't tell me 2 years from now, because by that time, every car on the block is going to be just dinged up from the cement.
I'm sure our city manager can give some more input on this and why and what kind of a position we're in related to it. So bear with us.
I've borne with you for 32 years.
I hope you stay for 33 more. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Sir, right in front.
My name is Wayne Winters. I live on Donald Street. I have resided in my home. It'll be 47 years next month. Now, in 2017, when I came down here to bring up the flop house they're building for the dope addicts in my street, I was told then that Mr. Marucci, who was acting city manager at the time, would meet with me, and he did. And at the time, there was Mary Van Harden there at the same time. Okay, when I left this meeting, I was under the impression that the house had ceased to exist for this multifamily dwelling. Now, I also reported back then about the police officers that were called to the home. One such incident was stated that the man was masturbating in the living room. And since that time, we have found out that he's a registered sex offender. And he's registered at that home still today. So one of the neighbors put it on her Facebook thing, and the state police showed up over there today looking for the man. He's gone, naturally. He's not going to stick around when he knows the cops are coming. But then Mr. Albright wrote a letter. And the letter stated that that the home was an R1 resident home. And then I got he sent 2 letters out, as a matter of fact. And then I got a letter now from this same Mary Van Harden, or whoever she is, and stating that according to her, while the city attorney sent a letter advising the property owner to discontinue using their property as a multifamily home, I believe such a request is not enforceable. So in other words, I'm taking it that her opinion overrides our city attorney, because our city attorney says it's not. It can't be used. So I don't understand. Either the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing, or we have a different city attorney now. I don't understand. She sent me all this material about all these ordinance and this and that and something else, and I'm sure Mr. Albright has been through this. He's an attorney. He has the education to figure this stuff out, and he wrote the letter. Now, I don't know how you're going to overturn the city attorney's opinion on this. I really don't. And she says that the property can be used until it's ceased to exist. Now, when I first left this meeting with her and Mr. Marucci, I was under the impression that this house started turning over in 2000. That must have been when my neighbor that I was there when I moved there in 71 had passed away. So there's been about, I don't know, 10 or 15 different people own this house since then. Now, I was told at this meeting that it had ceased to exist for a multi-family home. But now I can get two contradicting reports. So I don't know who's right, who's wrong. I don't know what's going on with this council. I don't know what's going on with this city. It seems to me like the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing. And that's plain and simple fact. Now, you can have all the meetings you want, you can do all the talking you want, but somebody's got to do something to make our neighborhoods better. Now, I don't know who it is supposed to do this, but I don't know.
But we're going to address your questions with both our city manager as well as with our city attorney tonight. And at least they can advise you of what they can do now or in the near future.
Well, who's leading this process? I don't understand.
We can address that.
So you don't want these other people to hear it?
No, what I'm saying is our city manager is over the building department. So, but the city attorney is the advisor. So if you can just take a seat for now, we'll go forward. As soon as we finish the hearing of the public and they have their time, then they can hopefully answer your questions. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Mr. Creech. And to all those sitting in the audience, I have something to confess. A lady called, sent a notice to the city saying that I was shorting Mr. Creech on his full 3 minutes. So last time when I gave him the notice at the end of 2 minutes and 30 seconds, that he had 30 seconds yet to talk, he only spoke for 10 of those 30 seconds. So I owe him 20 seconds, which I've told him. But please, Mr. Creech, just remember, you will get a warning with 30 seconds to go, and your time is up at 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council, and residents of Eastpointe. Harvey Creech, resident for going on close to 50 years. And this gentleman right here said something. The two things I'd really like to say, we had a great cruise. That was a great cruise. And I would personally like to thank Mr. Cotton. The gentleman said he would meet me. The gentleman met me. We had a good conversation and a good time. Well, I mean, I think we accomplished something, but there again, too, my 3 minutes of fame here and in my hour with Mr. Cotton will never make up for the time I need. The two things I want to address tonight is responsibility and accountability. I asked for freedom of information about who is responsible for our parks. This is what I received. The contractor agrees for the consideration set forth in this bid from the Park Maintenance Management Services to provide the city with the work indicated in bid specific of PM 1503. Well, that answered the one question, and it was signed by the city and by Mitch. Well, here is the contract. The contract states, it says, maintain trash cans, city parks, parking, city hall, painting once a year, maintain grills, included repairing needed, but the biggest ones I want to get to right here is, it says, repair fencing. I started with that 3 years ago. It says, horseshoe pits. I'm still working on that. We've got 10 horseshoe pits. We've got 4 of them reworked over Kennedy. Volleyball. We got 2 volleyball courts, and it definitely need. They're not maintained. I don't care how you look at it. Go take a look at them. Basketball, we no longer have basketball courts. Shuffleboard, this is the one I already got in. Today I went over, I took my equipment to do the shuffleboards. We have 8 courts. I could use 1. The other ones need painting. The 2 at Kennedy, there was an attendant there, I showed her. When I went to, they call it a wait in a queue, when I took my queue, sent down the wait, when you go from the north side to the south side, there's an 1/8 to a 1/4 inch slip in both of them, and your puck either stops, goes over top, or flips upside down. When you're going from the south to the north, it will go down. It's not that hard of a fix, people. You go in there, you put some contract, you put down some, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit mad, I shouldn't be. You can put down a sealer, you can put down some crack element. They've got hydraulic cement, you put it down, you buff it up. We got 2 courts. The only one we can use over at Spindler is the extreme one on the, that would be on the west side, but it's there. 8 courts and we got 1 we can use? Come on, people. It says right here, maintenance contract. All this stuff is supposed to be maintained. Excuse me, I'm going to be direct. I've went to Joe, I've went to Mary, I've went to everybody. They're passing the buck. The buck's got to stop right here, right now. You've got to have accountability and responsibility. It comes down. I can read this right here, too.
You have 30 seconds.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll try to get this down, and I'll have to come back. Contract officer. The contract officer shall be the city manager. I talked to the gentleman. But it says under that, his designee, which is Mary. Mary's not here. If Mary can't do it, she doesn't need to be a park director. If Joe or Mitch can't take care of the parks, we need another contractor. People, put it together. 2 and 2 makes 4. Here's the contract. Why should I have to go through, or any of these other residents, ask who's going to do it? When we got a contract that says it shall be done. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Your time and your extra time is up. Thank you. All right, does anyone else wish to be heard? Please.
Hello, my name is Shamanique Bright. I reside on Petersburg Avenue. I just had 2 questions, and hopefully, like you said, they can be answered towards the end of the meeting. First question is, when it comes to garage or carports, what is the ordinance on that? I was first told when I moved to my residence about a year ago, when I purchased a home about a year and a half ago, I was told that carports were not allowed. And when I tried to show them the design of the carport, which wasn't your regular metal carport you can buy at like Lowe's or Home Depot, it was the one that you would actually build onto, attach it to the home. I was told that that wasn't possible, but when I did some riding around, I noticed right on David Street, between Stevens and 10 Mile, I noticed on Brittany Street, carports, and these were the regular metal carports, but I'm trying to build one that's a little bit extensive than that work. So I just want to know what was the ordinance on that when I've already seen some carports. And then 2, while I was in the library today, I noticed that our mayor is supposed to be writing a book with regards to the history of Eastpointe, and I want to know, will you be adding like the integration of adding minorities when they come into place and when the Eastpointe made them, you know, accepted minorities? And also with one, I know our city councilwoman, Ms. Owens, is definitely a history maker because she is the first person of color to be on the council. I was just wondering were those some things that was going to be added in the book. So those were my 2.
So I will be talking about that Thursday at 2.
Okay.
Does anyone else wish to be heard? Anyone else? All right, the first hearing of the public is closed. Let's move on to approval of the minutes of the regular meeting. We have none because they're not done yet, because Linda was working on other things. We have no scheduled hearings for tonight. We only have 2 items under the unfinished business. The first one is the second reading and the adoption of the ordinance number 1151, which is our fiscal year 2018-19. These are the appropriations and the tax levies, the water rates, and the sewer rates. Do we have a motion, please?
I don't know if there needs to be some discussion on this first, because I know there were some emails back and forth today. If Mr. Blum or Mr. DeMonico would want to comment at all on some of those issues?
Mr. DeMonico.
Sure. So I think I've said a lot in previous meetings, so I will actually keep it pretty brief today. I just have one, and I don't know if Mr. Cotton or Mr. Blum did have anything to add today, but my one proposal would be, since we have discussed it in the past, a water and sewer rate study, that we not change our rates until the study is done. So essentially, just keep the rates the same today when we vote for water and sewer till that's done. And then I'd assume we can actually change rates at any point, right? It doesn't have to be always at this time of year. It's just an ordinance, I believe, so unless there's something special about it. That was pretty much it. And once we do the study, I'll honor the study, and then we change the rates accordingly then.
Mr. Blum?
As far as changing the rates now, there's nothing magic other than it's a new fiscal year, and that's how we set the budgeted revenues. We put money in the budget to do the study as requested. If it's 6 months from now and the rate should have been 1%, then you're going to do a 2% increase because you're going to have to make up for the lost revenues in the first 6 months of the year. I mean, you just keep that in mind. Every time you create a deficit, you got to make it up in the future. We dropped it from 3.2 down to 1% with the change in the water shutoff policy. You can just as easily reduce it in the future after the water rate study if it turns out it's too high, but you constantly create a catch-up issue if you delay the increases, and that would be my only concern with doing that. But no, there's nothing magic about having a rate increase on July 1st. You could do it January 1st if you wish.
Okay.
I'd like to ask two questions related to it. I didn't see it in the information that went out. Last year, I believe, because our water loss was low, our revenues did exceed to some extent expenditures, and I was wondering if we knew the number for that. And my second question would be, my understanding is we're within 1% of what the projected cost is, and in terms of best practices or how far off becomes sort of financially irresponsible if there's a number. It seems to me like within 1% of what the projections are would be a reasonable calculation for the rates.
How much does 1% equal? Do you have any idea, roughly?
I would have to go back and find my spreadsheet. I don't know that off the top of my head.
I think it was within 120,000 was the deficit that not going up to 1 was estimated to create.
That sounds familiar. Yeah, I remember sending the information out. I just don't remember specifically. But yes, I believe I had sent something to that effect. If we kept them at 0, it would cause about 120,000 for the year.
When you guys did this when you guys increased the water rates before, was this study done before it was increased before?
No, we're talking about doing a professional study, bringing in an engineer that would go through the rates. And
Was that done before? That's what I'm saying.
no, we've never done that. It's always based on financials.
Okay.
Right, so the Finance Department has done a study, and I've done that before as well. But the professional approach we've talked about, these are people who do it for a living all the time and have the best knowledge available out there.
Okay.
And
No, I
they
was
may
saying-
come up with something completely different. They may come up with something that says that you're way down in your projection.
Correct.
Or way up. Either, we'll wait till the study comes to project that.
Do we know how much last year collected above what our operations costs were? Because
You're
last year.
talking about fiscal year 17?
Uh,
That was an actual deficit. The fiscal year we're in is not complete.
Gotcha.
So until we actually do all the final adjustments for audit, I won't be able to answer that question.
Okay. Do you know what our water loss this year has been about?
No, that's a once-a-year analysis, again, done as part of the audit preparation.
All right. I'd like to wait till a water rate study is done. Because I mean, 120,000's not a lot, and my understanding is I think we're expecting to actually have our rates set a little higher because I think we're going to have low water loss this past year once we get to the end, so.
So let me be sure of what you're saying. You are saying that you don't want to recommend this motion, or?
I don't want to raise the 1% until we do I'd rather wait to
But we
raise.
currently have the 1% in the budget, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, Mayor Pixley, my recommendation would just be approve everything as is, all the budget items, the millages, and then just keep that water rate the same as last year and the sewer rate.
So what you're saying is that you're going to be making the motion as written here, correct?
Right, just with the amendment that we just do is 0% increase on the water rate and the sewer rate as opposed to the 1% that is currently in our proposed budget.
No. You're saying you have 0%, so you're going to change this whole thing?
No, just the two numbers, just
You want to call it reset?
don't have it. What's our current rate? 418.
But that's not what's currently in the taxes and everything that will go out.
Finance Director Blum, there is a resolution attached, and City Attorney Albright, I believe that the gist of what's being suggested is, and I'm not sure it's in the form of a motion yet, technically, but it's to address Section 3 and Section 4 of the resolution that you have in front of you to signify that those numbers should be changed to reflect a 0% increase, is what I'm understanding.
Yes.
That's what I'm hearing, yes.
And the figures that you used in all of your information was a 1%, is that correct?
Yes, that would, it would change both the water rate and the sewer rate in this motion, as well as the revenue for the water sewer fund by the 120 or whatever that calculation turned out to be. But that can be adjusted after tonight.
After tonight?
If we just make the motion that that number be adjusted to reflect zero increase.
This is really the legal document. Pages here.
Okay.
I was trying to find last year's water rates, but
It's not going to affect taxes or anything else that are going?
no. It doesn't affect expenditures, it doesn't affect taxes, it only affects revenue for water sewer.
Okay.
So I believe if I'm doing my math right, 1254 divided by 3, 418 is our current water rate.
Oh, I
And
would just,
State the percentage.
prefer to
Okay.
support and just leave it up to Randy to recalculate those numbers.
Okay, and 812 is there, but, okay. All right,
I
well,
have them on me, so I don't want to, plug in something that's not exactly accurate.
that's fine. Then I will motion to give second wait, am I looking at the right thing? Yes. To give second reading to and adopt ordinance number 1151, which provides for the appropriations and tax levies, establishes the water consumption rates, and establishes the sewer service rates for fiscal year 2018-2019, with one amendment that we have a 0% increase as opposed to a 1% increase on the water rate and the sewer rate.
Support.
Please call the roll.
Councilman DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilperson Owens?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
No.
Councilperson Kleinfeld?
Yes.
All right, and our second item is the letter of understanding.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion that we adopt the letter of understanding regarding the extension of the agreement with GFL as drafted by the city attorney.
Do we have support, please?
Support.
Please call the roll.
Okay, wait, before we,
I have just
Yeah.
one question too. I left the date blank. Does the council, assuming the motion passes, does the council want the date of June 19th to be inserted in the letter of understanding?
Yes.
Thank you.
So, you call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
You want to speak some more on it?
yeah, I was just going to say, I think we're, in a hard spot. We'll have to approve this essentially, but I'd like to not, in the future, go about this as we did, of course, and that's really all I'd like to say. Thanks, Mayor Pixley.
All right. So we have a motion, and
Yep.
please
I'm-
call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Owens?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes. Move on to reports from administration. Let's start with city manager, please. Mr. Ryan Cotton.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the promotion. As an interim city manager, I will do my best to answer all the questions from the public with the assistance of our team here. So I'm going to give them a little bit of notice. We're going to end my remarks with some of their assistance. So pertaining to matters affecting public safety, I'm going to defer to our acting director, Kaiser, and also pertaining to matters of law. After I address my role in it, I'm going to defer to our city attorney. In relation to park maintenance, I will address that, and in relation to the carports, I will address that. But first, I want to give you some updates that I think you want to know. And actually, this request came from Councilmember Owens pertaining to the courtroom and the need for additional safety in the hallways as it pertains to the judge and prisoners that are being transported. That question came in, and I'm pleased to say that Deputy City Clerk and Purchasing Agent Randy Aldemus has included those numbers in the budget that you just approved. So $90,000, and he met with the architect at about the same time we were talking. He was meeting with the architect to get them going on all of the building projects that were in this budget. So that's underway. Also, the suggestion was made that by Councilmember Owens that there be consideration of additional uniform officers on a temporary lease type basis to fill in when there is that opening, and that was carried forward, and there's certainly a possibility of doing that. And I have not had a conversation yet with the court administrator to see what her decision is, but it's good to know that you support that, and that is something that's been referred to her. In relation to the replacement public safety director, August 2nd is confirmed as the date the assessment center will take place. That's a process by which there's raters from other agencies who know about public safety that will convene and spend all day reviewing the various scenarios that the applicants put themselves, I keep wanting to say through, but it's actually their opportunity to shine, is the way I should put it. So we will need 2 council members from here to participate as not as raters, because that's people who know a lot, but as participants in the way in that we need your feedback in a general kind of way at the end. So if there are any volunteers, I'm not quite sure, Mayor, what the protocol is, or whether you'd like to designate or request certain council members, but we really would value several council members to have August 2nd, or at least a large part of it, available. If your time is short, we can find a way where you can have a chance to participate without being there the entire day, but first I need to see their schedule. If, for those who, and everyone's welcome, for certain. It's nothing that is exclusive, but rather it would be nice to have someone that's two that are continuous. At the end of the interview process, we'll have a civil service process, and then we'll have two finalists. And those two finalists will be brought back to visit with the entire city council in a meet and greet and opportunity. It'll be public, and anyone in the audience or members watching in the community can be there as well. So that is the process that's underway, and we are hopeful to bring it to a good conclusion. Now I want to move to Department of Public Works. I have nothing to report on the DPW director, except gratitude to Carol and Darren, who are keeping the ship afloat and are uniformly doing a very fine job. So that recruitment is on a lesser speedy track, but is something that I am exploring with other managers and also other professionals as to the best way to approach that, given that we were short on applicants the last time. But while you're thinking about DPW, I wanted to bring up the concept of the open yard and having what we call long Mondays. There's an email from Darren in front of you that relates to this and how it would work. It'd be a minimal cost and a possible opportunity for people to clean up their yards and neighborhoods throughout the summer. It would not be a winter program at all, and it could begin as soon as the first Monday of July. However, we're debating on whether greater publicity would happen at a later point. When do water bills go out?
There will be bills going out around July 1st. We're actually trying to see if we can get flyers in by the end of this week to get them into the July water bill. Otherwise, it'd be a flyer that goes out with the August bill.
So the exact date is not known. I wanted to have you hear about it. You have it in the weekly report as well, and if you have any feedback, you like it or don't like it, certainly if you don't like it, let us know.
Are we able to email that flyer out also? Because I just received an email, Bill.
Email attachments don't work with email water bills, unfortunately. So, no.
Meanwhile, people can stay tuned on the Facebook page and in other ways, hopefully get the information, and we'll have it posted, and assuming everyone's comfortable with us moving forward. Now I'd like to talk about the situation involving our construction program plan for Johnston, I believe is the street. I have information from Joe Marucci in front of you, who's worked with our engineer on that. And the good news is that project, of course, is moving forward. You've had all the approvals. The bad news is, depending on how the water line is replaced, there might be 40 trees that would come down. And that is something that is not being considered lightly. At a minimum, would involve a neighborhood meeting to discuss. At a maximum, perhaps there's options that would reduce the number of trees removed and also make sure that those removed are replaced. So more to follow on that, but I did want you to know as you drive up and down the street to be aware, and we'll keep you posted on how that planning and engineering evolves. There is a T-Mobile tower that has shown an interest in being located in Memorial Park, and I put that on the record to, I'm not sure what your response has been in the past to that kind of request. We do have some discussions that have just begun, so if you have any opinions on that, be sure to let staff know before we get too far down the road. And now I'd like to move to the public comment in terms of the whether there's something that can be done about 100 renters and land and issues with noise in advance of 11 p.m. and whether the landlord is notified. I believe I know the answer, but I want to defer to Acting Chief Kaiser on this, as well as the stray dog on the weekend. Ooh, that's right. I have an announcement on animal control. Can you hold that? Thank you. We have recently needed to make some changes to the animal control program. Something got out of order here. That's why that's in front of you also, a report from Acting Chief Kaiser. As you know, in the budget you just approved, there's additional funds available to ask the county for assistance, and that request has been made And there's discussions as to what it would look like, and that would come forward for you to look at. But it couldn't happen in terms of beginning until October 1. We do not have an animal control officer right now, so there's two other options. One is to recruit someone for a short period. They're very hard to find, especially ones that are certified and qualified. The other is to have somewhat less service for the time being. What would be less, you ask? What would be less is what Acting Chief Kaiser will probably announce. If there's an animal that is on private property, especially a non-domestic animal, there are a variety of services that can respond and take care of that kind of nuisance, which would be something that would likely be the best outcome in the interim. If it's a stray animal that is not violent or is not obviously diseased or in any way a danger to anyone, then that would remain at large. And there are other ways that people can locate their dogs that are missing. Now, Acting Chief Kaiser, would you comment on the noise, the stray animal, and the other question regarding caution children playing?
Well, good evening, Mr. Interim City Manager, Council. Related to the noise, yes, if there is, we don't have to wait till 11 o'clock. If there's a disorderly party, an extremely loud party, or any other type of noise, call us, we'll come out. If we can help moderate that or shut down the party, we will certainly do that. You have a right to enjoy being in your home without excessive noise. Stray animals.
What about the homeowner responsibility?
Thank you very much. Homeowner responsibility, yes. We do have an ordinance. If there is a disorderly party, the officers could issue a disorderly party ticket to the owner, the person responsible for the party. Normally, under usual circumstances, we try to give at least one warning for them to quiet down, but if it is a repeated problem, we will issue a ticket.
To the
Person responsible,
in the house or to the owner of the home?
person responsible for the party, which could be the homeowner. If it is a renter, we have a form recently, we got together with the building department, and there's an ordinance, and we developed a disruptive conduct form. So if officers go out, they find repeated disruptive conduct at rental homes, we forward these to the building department. The building department will investigate on top of whatever the police department did. If there's 3 findings of responsibility for disruptive conduct, the city can force the landlord to evict the renter.
So it takes 3 incidents.
3 separate incidences, yes. And part of our report to the building department includes a search of our computer system, and we would send all incidents related to strengthen the case, because there are some people that just don't understand how to be neighborly. And we do want to solve that.
Moving on to the caps on the weekend.
Okay, so yeah, we have, this is a complicated issue, and you wouldn't think that it would be, but it really is just confounding. So the Macomb County Animal Shelter will not accept animals from people who live in Eastpointe unless it comes in through our animal control. Currently, we do not have an animal control officer. We can't keep animals at the police department. We don't have the facilities for that. And the Department of Agriculture has rules about creating an animal shelter if you keep animals for periods of time. And the city does not have the resources to establish an animal shelter. One of the requirements is having a vet on staff and many other qualifications to have an animal shelter, and that's not something that we're in the business to do. We don't have the resources to do that. If people can hold animals over the weekend, we ask that you do that if they're non-aggressive, non-diseased. Officers, of course, will respond if there's an aggressive, vicious animal. Dog bites, emergency situations, will certainly come out and do what we can, but strays that are non-aggressive, if people can hold on to them, we would appreciate that. It helps us out. We are working with the county animal shelter to overcome this. We just have hit an impasse. If you call the animal shelter, their voicemail tells you if you live in Warren, Sterling Heights, or Eastpointe, you have to call the city for services because they won't.
And is that on weekdays also, or do they really count on weekdays?
Currently, they want an employee of the city of Eastpointe, a police officer, or now our code enforcement officer sometimes subs in there for animal control, to take the animal up there because they send us a bill for that.
Do they oppose of dealing with neighboring counties such as, I know Wayne County, in the city of Detroit, they have with their shelters, when I used to stay in Detroit, when the animal shelter would get full, they would have, a company called Detroit Animal Rescue Mission, or Detroit Dog Rescue, or something like that. Thank you, DDR, thank you. DDR, we could call them. Are they opposed to, or should we contact them too? Do they work with neighboring counties?
Not exactly sure what the county does.
Okay.
We also take animals to anti-cruelty down in Detroit, and there's a number of other rescues that we work with to try to place the animals if we can. And that was usually our animal control officer that did that. It's just a time-consuming process, and then we had to drive them out of the city, and we try to keep our officers in the city to provide emergency service.
I just have one thought I'd like to share with you that would be helpful, if at the police station, because that is where we started. If they could have a list available of some of these shelter, of these rescue groups, of like DDR and Cause for all of those, where they could at least direct you when you came into the police station, why don't you try giving these people a call? That would really be helpful when you've picked up a stray